Hi everybody, welcome to part 2 of our Sew Fun presentation here at Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vacuum for the month of January. My name is Mallory. I am so excited to be back here with you guys today. For those of you who haven't been Sew Fun members and coming to our presentations for years, you might not recognize me, but I used to present Sew Fun before I had my second child, and since then it's been really difficult to get back in the stores as much as I'd like. So as much as having to do virtual Sew Fun has been kind of a bummer, this is a little bit of a blessing for me that I get to come back and present and be with you today. So I'm very excited to show you lots of fun stuff, and we'll get going. The first thing I want to share with you today is the book Easy Masks to Sew by Zaka Workshop. Even for those of you that have already sewn quite a few different masks, you're probably like me and you found that certain masks fit different faces better than others. So I wanted to see what this book had to offer. It has just a basic straight mask. It has a pleated mask pattern, a contoured mask pattern. It has some really cute little animal face masks, and it shows you how to do fabric covered ties as well. I made the pleated masks in all 3 sizes, so they have a large, a medium, and a small. These sewed up pretty quick and easy. There's templates for it, not just measurements, really clear directions on how to make your pleats and the finished binding and everything. The book does include enough elastic for 3 masks, so this is the elastic that comes in the book. And I just thought that it was a really easy pattern to go with. The medium and the large both fit my face decently, so I think there's a little bit more leeway with the pleated masks on what sizes you can get to fit different people. The other masks I made were the contoured masks, and I made all 4 sizes of those. So for my 3-year-old, she got the little tiny candy cane mask, and it fits her little face perfectly. My 7-year-old got a little Christmas tree mask, and this one is the size small, not the extra small, and that fit him really well. I really liked the medium size mask. It fits well. One thing that I like about this contoured mask pattern as opposed to some of the other ones I found online is it not only contours up at the top, but it contours down at the bottom. So when you're talking, it helps cover your chin and your chin doesn't pop out the bottom of the mask. So I'm going to try that on to show you what it looks like. And then I made the large mask for my husband. It still has some kind of Christmassy fabric, but not as much. The other thing I like about these is they're fully lined, and I like to do my linings in a different fabric so that it's really easy to tell which side is the inside versus the outside. Also, if you can choose directional fabric for one or the other, since these contoured masks are contoured on the top and bottom, it helps to have directional fabric. So on the inside of my mask, I have a little tree and a reindeer to show me as I'm putting it on which side is up and which side is down, because the contours are not the same for the nose and the chin, which I think is really great. The next project I'm going to share with you today are the pull-on pants and shorts by J. Lee. I love J. Lee patterns. One of the great things about J. Lee's patterns is they always come with such a wide variety of sizes. So in this particular pattern, it starts at 12 months, so teeny tiny little baby, and goes through women's size 22. So it's really a versatile pattern. You get a lot of bang for your buck from J. Lee patterns. So this particular pattern is made to be used with woven fabric, but what I really wanted to do was make it with knits. I mean, we're all rocking our, leggings and sweats and PJs with COVID. So I just thought that this would be a great pattern to make for Christmas pants for my kids and lounge pants for myself. So what I did was I made my 3-year-old a little pair of Christmas pajama pants. I used stretch French terry, which is a little bit of a thicker knit, a little more substantial. So it's really soft on the outside and smooth. And then on the inside, you have this brushed, or not brushed, looped texture to it. It's nice and stretchy. It doesn't get too hot, it's breathable. My kids love when I make clothes out of the stretch French terry. So the pattern includes all of the pieces. One thing that I like to use with J-Lee patterns is Swedish tracing paper. So it comes on this giant roll. It's kind of a fibrous paper, so you can trace your pattern pieces onto it and you don't cut up your giant pattern and get one use out of it. So you can use it over and over again, get as many different sizes as you want out of it as your kids grow, make it for your whole family, for yourself, you know, as you go through the COVID-15 that you get by staying home. So Swedish tracing paper, I think, is just a really great option for that. One thing that I did with this pattern is I used both my serger and my cover stitch machine. So it made sewing them up really fast. You'll see on the inside, my seams are sewn on the serger, and then I used the cover stitch to finish it. So I used that for the waistband, stitching that down, and I caught the elastic with the cover stitch machine that helps keep the elastic from twisting around. You know how sometimes in your waistbands the elastic will flip and you have a weird little twisty loop in your waistband? To avoid that, if you use your cover stitch machine and catch the bottom edge of the elastic, that prevents that from happening. You'll just want to stretch it out as you're stitching so that you get it evenly. And I could have done a little better job. I have an extra bunching in the back here, but the 3-year-old doesn't care about that, and it was good practice for me. I also used the cover stitch down on the bottom hemline, and I just think it leaves a really nice finished edge that's also really stretchy. So you can use the serger and the cover stitch on knits as well as on wovens, but she wore these and wore these, has loved them. So the pattern is made to go with wovens, and it comes with pants and shorts lines on it. If you made it out of a woven, you could wear it easily for you could wear pajama pants, obviously, but if you made it out of a nice twill or linen fabric, they could even be dressier pants that are still very comfortable to kind of bridge that gap when we all get to go back to normal society. The next thing I'm going to talk about today is the Ferris Fanny Pack pattern by Sally Tomato. Sally Tomato has lots of different bag patterns, and they're always really well thought out. They have lots of appropriate stabilizers, and she thinks through all the hardware. In fact, she provides hardware kits for all of her bags. So when I saw that she had this fanny pack pattern, first off, it reminded me of my childhood when everybody was rocking the big, bulky neon fanny packs everywhere. And I've liked some of the newer, sleeker fanny packs I've seen around, and I thought this was the perfect excuse to make one for myself. So the pattern includes 3 different sizes, and I started with the small fanny pack. So this is the small. I used the gunmetal hardware. We got the hardware in nickel. Comes as a kit. You can order it in nickel, gunmetal, shiny gold, antique brass, and rose gold. So if you wanted a different color, we can order that in for you. I also used the Sally Tomato zipper tape, and it comes in all of those same finishes for the teeth. What's great about the Sally Tomato zipper tape is it looks like it's metal teeth, but it's plastic teeth. So it cuts really easily, it's easy to sew through, you don't end up with broken needles. It really is an amazing thing. And the zippers are actually very easy to get the zipper pulls on the zipper tape, which sometimes I struggle with some of the other zipper tapes I've tried. So for this pattern, it includes a little front pocket as well as the bigger pocket. And this size small is the perfect size for my phone. I have the iPhone 8, not the Plus. If you have a Plus or one of the bigger, Android phones, it probably wouldn't fit in this size of a fanny pack. But I just thought it came out really cute. In her pattern, she says you can use fusible fleece or soft and stable or Bosal inner form. For the size small, I used the fusible fleece, and I definitely wouldn't use one of the foams, but for a larger fanny pack, you could use some of the foams. The waistband, her instructions include a very sizable waistband. It's adjustable and all of the hardware is included to make it adjustable. In fact, you might want to measure your waist before you finish making your bag, because hers at its tightest, just fits right around my hips. So for those of you that want it to fit more right at your waist, you might need to make your waistband a little shorter, but there shouldn't be any problems for the vast majority of people with it not being long enough, because she does give lots of extra room. And it's nice with this beautiful hardware. The clips are easy to put on, easy to take off, and you can clip it from either side. So I just thought it was a really fun, quick project. This is a great introduction project if you've never really sewn handbags or backpacks or anything like that. This is a great thing where you can learn to do the zippers, sewing on curves, using different layers without making it too difficult on yourself. The next project I have for you today are the Take a Peek zipper pouches by Kimberbell. Kimberbell always has such cute designs. I really loved these Take a Peek zipper pouches. I'm a sucker for zipper pouches. For those of you who have been watching Sew Fun over the last year, Lisa is one of our presenters. She actually is my mother and started presenting Sew Fun because I got her into it. And she is obsessed with zipper pouches. She tries every zipper pouch pattern she ever sees, and so I knew this would be a big hit for both of us. So she actually made these samples that we have here today. The disc includes 3 different sizes of 2 different styles. So Lisa made these horizontal zipper pouches. They're wider than they are tall, but they also have 3 sizes of the vertical pouches. So the pouches are made using this Kimberbell embroidery leather. So we got these 3 colors in. These are the colors that she made, and it also uses the vinyl, and the vinyl comes in these packs that have 8 sheets total of 3 different colors. We have the pink set, the clear vinyl, as well as kind of the blues and greens. So she made this as a set to go together. We also got these different colored zippers that have the lace on them in. And she matched the vinyl with the detailed stitching on the bottom. And what I love about them is they nest together really well. So if you're not using them, putting them away for storage is really nice and easy. They're clear on the top, so it makes it easy to see what's inside. And there are, places like the airport and certain jobs where you have to have a clear bag to put things in, so these are a great option. It is a little bit tricky to turn the vinyl inside out after you're done stitching these. So what Lisa did to get out some of the little, like creases and folds and things, is she took her hair dryer and put it on high for just a minute and just went really quickly over the vinyl to make it a little more pliable and smooth, and then she smoothed it out with her fingers, and that really helped take out all of those wrinkles. But they are made in the embroidery machine for the most part, and then the final stitching is done just on the sewing machine. But they're really cute. We do have all of the notions in store to be able to purchase to make these zippered bags. I'm excited to share with you this Roll With It pattern by Annie. Annie is another bag maker that I really love. I think most of her patterns are really well written, well thought out, and this pattern in particular was very easy to follow along with. It is a lot of steps, most of her patterns are, but none of her steps were really complicated or difficult. They were all easy to do, even on a small sewing machine. I would recommend having lots of space around your sewing machine, because at first I had mine set up on a little desk and it was too close to the wall, and I kept, as I'm sewing, pushing this all the way through and hitting the wall, and it was problematic. So any size sewing machine will do, but have lots of space around your sewing machine. So Roll With It it's called a bag or a wrap pattern. What it is it is a way to carry beach towels, blankets for a picnic, a yoga mat, and it just, magnetic snaps together and opens up all the way. So I made the original size, narrow size, the smaller size, the standard one. But there is a larger size that doesn't get any taller. It just is wider down here to accommodate like a extra plush large yoga mat or extra large blanket. So for this pattern, it uses soft and stable for the exterior part of it and also for the pockets, and you quilt those layers together on your machine. If you don't have the FOF built-in IDT, I really strongly recommend using a walking foot so that your quilting doesn't shift your layers as you're quilting that. I did 1-inch straight lines up and down, which was really easy to do. In fact, I sort of cheated because my lining fabric was striped, and so I just went off every 4th stripe, which made it very quick and easy. If you're going to use directional fabric when making a bag, you really need to pay attention to what the width is versus the height on all the pieces that you're cutting. I chose to use mostly non-directional fabric, but with the lining, I had to make sure my stripes were going the way I wanted to when I cut it out. So the bag uses invisible sew-in magnetic snaps and several different pieces of hardware. I was looking to find all the different pieces of hardware, and it was difficult to find them just at the regular store or through Annie. So what I ended up doing was I found hardware from Sally Tomato again, and by piecing together a few different hardware kits, I was able to make everything for this bag. So if you want to make this bag with the gold hardware like I did, we have that hardware in stock. You will need 2 of this hardware. It's called the Holly or Charade hardware kit. So you'll need to get 2 of those, and then 1 package of the 1-inch slider buckles. And because the Charade kit comes with a magnetic snap, you could use that instead of the invisible magnetic snaps if you wanted to. That's your choice. I also used, again, that Sally Tomato zipper tape. This time I did it with the black tape and gold teeth. Still the plastic teeth, super easy to work with. And with 1 package of her zipper tape, I was able to make all 4 zippers for this bag, and I still have a little bit left over. When you open up the bag, you'll notice it has, I'm going to take out the towel to make this easier. It has these straps that can adjust to a much larger towel, blanket, yoga mat. And then it has 2 pockets on the inside here as well. It has a vinyl pocket, zips, and then it has this mesh pocket on the other side that also zips. On the outside, it has 2 pockets as well. So they consider this the front. It has this extra little accent piece of fabric. And when I got finished making this, I thought this would make such a great gift to give to somebody. And I love personalizing gifts. In fact, that's the whole reason I got my first embroidery machine, is because I wanted to put somebody's name on a baby blanket. So I love seeing things like this where you could embellish it with somebody's name or their monogram if they're getting married, or some of the fun embroidery designs that Lynn has been showing you over the last year. So that's a fun little space to add some extra detail. We do have the mesh fabric available, as well as the soft and stable, and all the hardware and the zippers to make this bag. Next, I want to show you the Quilter's Project Planner. When I saw this on our distributor's website, I just thought this would make a great notion for January. So the Quilter's Project Planner, the tagline is everything you need to dream, plan, and organize 12 projects. So for anybody who has a hard time getting through their projects throughout the year, if you end up with lots of UFOs or not even starting projects, you have lots of ideas and you just don't ever really execute them, this is a great book for you. It's set up so that each month you have a different quilt to do, and it's not a pre-chosen quilt. You get to plan and choose all of it. So there's the big picture section in the beginning, and then it goes down to detailed project planning, lots and lots of different checklists for you, swatch boards, graph it out. There's just a lot of different ways to appeal to different people's interests and talents. I thought that this would just be very appealing to almost everybody, to keep track of everything. It also has quilts on loan. Who did you give your quilt to? Who are you making a quilt for? In the back, it has my library for different quilts that you want to do, books you have, contacts and references. I just thought that this was a very cool project planner, and what better time to get a project planner than in January when we're all ready to start something new. The last bag that I made today is the Tripper bag by Sally Tomato. As I said before, I really like Sally Tomato. I think that she has lots of interesting bags. And one thing that I found with all of the bags I made this month is they really were like an easy, moderate, and difficult. So the Ferris Fanny Pack was a very easy pattern, a great introduction to, bags and purses and those things. The Roll With It wrap bag wasn't difficult per se, but I would call that a moderate difficulty pattern. There's a lot to deal with and push through the machine. Nothing was particularly difficult, but I would say it's for, moderate level of difficulty. This Tripper bag, on the other hand, I would definitely say is a difficult bag to make and something that you don't want to attempt if it's your first bag. For those who are looking for a little bit more of a challenge and feel really experienced, this could be a good bag for you to make. This bag also uses the soft and stable inside as much as the other bags did. I also used the Sally Tomato zippers and hardware again. So on this one, I used the navy zipper tape with the nickel teeth and sliders. One thing you'll notice on this bag is the zippers, you can make it a double slide zipper. So you just put the zipper slides on opposite ends and you end up with this double slide zipper, which I think adds a nice professional quality to your homemade bags. This backpack has a lot of great pockets. It has this little front one for small things. It has this larger one that has the big gusset double zipper. It has 2 pockets on the side with the elastic. They are large, deep. They could fit a water bottle easily. And then it has the big zippered pouch. So one of the things I like about this backpack is it is completely zipped and enclosed. And the way it opens and has this really wide mouth at the top and deep is nice, instead of a backpack that zips, down the side, that kind of rainbow style and opens up. This really allows you to see in and get everything that you want. On the inside, it also has pockets on the front and the back, and I chose to divide my front pocket into 2 by stitching a line down the center. That is optional. One thing the pattern doesn't tell you to do, which I would recommend, is once you're finished turning everything right side out and top stitching everything, go back and hand tack the corners of your lining down to the bottom of your backpack so that the lining stays put down inside there. It also has this nice big handle to grab onto and padded straps. I did use the Sally Tomato ladder locks. We have the nickel as well as this exact zipper tape, the navy with the silver teeth, in stock. So if you want to match me, go ahead and do that. With all of the bag patterns this month, I would recommend really taking good use of your sewing feet. So the different sewing feet that I used for my machines with the bags this month, I used my 1/4" foot, which I use all the time making tons of different things. It's great for 1/4" seams as well as the 1/8" top stitching. Mine has a really nice 1/8" line on it. I used my narrow zipper foot. It's a little bit different than the standard zipper foot. It almost looks like a little surfboard or skateboard to really get in nice and close to the zippers and also help go around the curves. With the Roll With It bag, that wrap pattern, I used my Teflon foot over the vinyl. You will also maybe want your Teflon foot when you do the zipper pouches for the Kimberbell bags. So really think about the different feet that you have for your machine. Oh, and the walking foot, I mentioned that one already. And utilize those. Sometimes I know it's like, oh, I don't have that foot, I'm just gonna make do. And I really think it's worth it to get the right tools to make sewing your stuff much easier. The next project I have for you is Let's Play Hearts. This pattern is by Atkinson Designs, and if you watched our December open house, I made their pint-sized parking pattern, which I thought came out really cute, useful pattern. I really like the way she writes her patterns. This one was written to show you how to use a specialty ruler if you have it, and to not use it if you don't have it. She says you can use 5 fat eighths or 3 fat quarters or 10 10-inch squares. Some people also call 10-inch squares layer cakes, and so for this month we brought in the 10-inch squares by Maywood Studios called Sunlit Blooms. So I used those to make this table runner. It went together really pretty quick and easy. Lots of, half square triangles and 45 degree seams. So I used the diagonal seam tape by Cluck Cluck Sew, which we had last year for Sew Fun 1 year. 1 month. If you didn't get that diagonal seam tape at the time, head into the stores, request it. We can get it for you. It's really amazing. It's some washi tape with seam lines that you put on your machine, so you don't have to mark any of these little, diagonals across your squares, and you just chain stitch it without having to mark anything. It really was a time saver for me this month, as I had 3 different projects that used those half square triangles. The other thing that I did on this table runner is I used texture quilting, and we'll get you some close-up shots of the different textures that I achieved in the different hearts. Table runners are a great place to try out new quilting techniques that you haven't tried before, because they're small, so you can get through it pretty quick and easy. And also, if you're not thrilled with the quilting at the end of it, you're not out a lot of time and fabric and all of that. So one thing that I did is I tried 5 different quilting designs, and what that allowed me to do was figure out how different textures are achieved with different types of quilting and different densities of quilting, and I found some textures that I love more than others. My favorite of all of these that I tried, I did on 4 different hearts, was just a diagonal line with a very close line next to it, and then a bigger space, and then close and far apart. So we'll get some close-ups of that, but I really loved all the different textures that I achieved on this table runner. While I'm talking about texture quilting, I want to talk to you about this book, Step by Step Texture Quilting by Christina Camelli. I thought this was a really interesting book and a really useful book. So Christina takes just solid fabrics and shows you how to quilt on different fabrics to achieve different looks through the textures created by the quilting. There are a few examples where she has a little bit of piecing, like this triangle one, but overall, almost all of her pictures are on solids. So the emphasis really is on the quilting. She includes pictures of every single quilting design that she talks about, along with step-by-step instructions to achieve that look. She also explains how tiny little adjustments and changes to that design creates a different look, which I found really compelling and really useful. So she might show how, for example, the open spaces one here. Both of these have a big zigzag down the middle, surrounded by straight horizontal lines on the sides. But by having tighter quilting, you achieve a different look than the looser quilting. So it really helped inspire me to play with some different designs, both that she used in the book as well as that I came up with on my own, inspired by her designs on that table runner, as well as the quilts behind me. She has free motion quilting as well as straight line quilting. She uses grids, non-grids. It just has tons of inspiration for you, lots of directions, instructions. I think that this is a great resource book for all quilters, whether you're quilting on a little home machine or a big long arm. And if you are interested in a long arm, go visit one of our 4 stores where you can get a demonstration and see how that works, and we can set you up with one of those if you'd like. The other embroidery design I have for you this month is another Kimberbell design. It is Pennants and Banners Hello Spring. So Kimberbell has this whole series of pennants and banners. They have the chenille pennants and banners that Lisa did last year, I believe, possibly the year before even, and also these seasonal pennants and banners. So I thought, we're going into spring, let's make some spring ones. I thought this Hello Spring one just was so cute. I changed up the colors just a little bit, but I did follow all the rest of the instructions. This is made almost exclusively in the hoop. At the very end, you flip it right side out and do just a little bit of top stitching around the edge to finish that out. When hanging the pennants, the way they have it stitched, you don't just hang it with string because then it pulls it together. You want to make sure that you stick a dowel in there to help stabilize, and then I just embellish it with a little bit of ribbon. This is the large size. The disc itself includes 4 different designs in 5 sizes each. So the extra small fits in a 4x4 hoop, and the extra large, I believe you need the 9x14 hoop to make. And then the small, medium, and large fit in between there. So this one is the Hello Spring design in the large size. Tracy decided to make a couple of them, and in typical Tracy fashion decided to try some different techniques and experiment with the finishes. And so she used minky fabric on the bunnies. She made the bunny design in the extra small size as well as the extra large. And she did a little bit different finishing on that. The disc also includes a really cute shamrock pennant and a pinch pinch lucky pot of gold for St. Patrick's Day. So a couple St. Patrick's Day pennants. These are great standalone designs, and you can also mix and match with the chenille pennants and banners as well. The last book I have for you today is Best of Moda Bake Shop. So Moda Bake Shop is basically all their pre-cuts. Moda has gorgeous fabric that I love, lots of fun things. And this book is based on making quilts from their pre-cuts. So using 2.5-inch squares or 5-inch squares, 10-inch squares, 2.5-inch strips, all sorts of different pre-cuts. And I chose to make a couple different projects out of this. The first one was the cover photo. Actually, this is what made me fall in love with this book. I saw this and thought, I have to make this quilt. So I made the house quilt, obviously with different fabric. So I already told you that we got that 10-inch square pre-cut pack from Maywood Studios, the Sunlit Blooms one. We have that available at the stores. And from one layer cake or 10-inch square pack, I was able to make that Let's Play Hearts table runner that I showed you, as well as this quilt. And I still have some leftover squares from that. So the book says that you need 2 charm packs to make this quilt. So if you're just going to use a different fabric, you can get 2 charm packs to make it. Make sure that you're getting the same charm pack because each house needs 2 of the same 5-inch square to make it. Or if you're using the 10-inch squares like I did, you really only need half of a 10-inch square to make it. So this is another quilt where I use that diagonal seam tape to piece the pieces together, because you see on these corners of the roof for all the houses, you'll need to do that piecing. So in addition to the layer cake, I used this background fabric. Instead of doing just a solid or even a tonal, which that's kind of my go-to for background fabrics, is to get a white on white or cream on cream. I went to our Littleton store and looked through their Kimberbell fabric, and they had this really fun fabric that's white with tiny little polka dots that are not evenly spaced, which is really great for piecing backgrounds because it's really not noticeable that it's pieced together, since you're not looking for those straight lines of polka dots or anything. It's a great way to bring out some of the colors of the quilt without making your background really bold and detract from your overall design. So again, that's the Kimberbell fabric. I got this at our Littleton store, and both our Littleton and our Aurora locations have that yardage of the Kimberbell fabrics. This quilt I also used texture quilting on. So this quilt I quilted on Tracy's long arm, free motion quilting, and I was going for, they called it like an anchored wave look, which is where you kind of get closer in some places and further apart in others. But I'm a pretty linear person and an evenly spaced person, so I found myself often just echoing my waves. And so it was really a great I don't know, practice, kind of get out of my comfort zone kind of quilting to try and get more of that anchored look. And I have to say, I really love how that quilting came out. Lynn has often said to me, well, you really care about the quilting. And I do. I think that the quilting on a project really adds that finishing touch. So I wanted to have an all-over quilting design that was attractive without detracting from the piecing of my quilt. The other quilt that I made from this book is this Christmas Bobbles pattern. So in the book, they had it made up with this really cute like red and blue and green Christmassy fabric. And I took one of the mini charm packs that we have at the stores. So we have a variety of these little mini charm packs in different holiday prints. And I made out of that one. I really like the black and red and green. And this was another one where I have had a ton of piecing. I want to say I had to cut 88, what was it, like 1-inch squares or something. They're very small little squares. And I had 88 of them that I had to piece. Can you imagine drawing that, you know, diagonal line on 88 tiny little triangles? And they said, oh, do it on sandpaper, that makes it easy. All I did was I put that diagonal seam tape on my machine and whipped through all of this. It went so much faster that way. So don't be fooled, this is a very small quilt, but it is actually a lot of piecing. So plan a little bit of extra time, more than you think, to put it together. This was a fun little quilt to make. One of the things that's easy about it is you don't have points that have to line up perfectly. One thing that I would recommend though is after you make the original little square, I think this is called a snowball square where you add the little triangles to your corners, I would go through and really square up all of those blocks and trim them down to size. I think that mine were just a hair big, which doesn't sound like it's that much of a problem, but when you go to add your little top strip here, if this one's a tiny bit big and this one's a tiny bit big and this one is and this one is and this one is and so on, all of that adds up to being quite a bit of difference from row to row. And so I ended up having to do a lot of squaring up of my rows, and I think it would be beneficial to just do that on the blocks before you piece all of them together. For the background fabric on this one, I used more of that Kimberbell fabric. This time I did the white fabric with the black dots, and then for the backing and binding, I did the black fabric with the white dots. This is another quilt that I really thought about the texture, and honestly, I just kind of stole the texture from the book. I loved the way they had quilted it in the book. So they did this diamond quilting on it around the Christmas tree, which really emphasized that Christmas tree look. One change I made was I did the straight lines over where the trunk of the tree is. And then I had a built-in stitch on my machine that has this kind of like wave of like a garland on a Christmas tree that I did in those borders in between. But I really just love how that came out. My kids loved how tiny it is. It was a fun little quilt to stitch up. So come in, get one of those little mini charm packs, the 2.5-inch squares, and you can make the whole quilt with one of those mini charm packs. The last project I have to share with you today is this Love at First Sight quilt. So this was another pattern that I just fell in love with right when I saw it online. I found the picture on the pattern really appealing, just that kind of rainbow effect. I liked all the white space around it. I just thought it was beautiful. This is a paper piecing pattern. So it has two different blocks that you paper piece together. One is just basically two large sides. So you have one fabric here, one fabric there. So that's a good place to really emphasize fabrics that maybe have a larger design on it. You could do some fussy cutting to really show off some fun fabrics there. And then it has this other heart design with lots more little pieces. So this is a great way to use a bunch of scraps that you have. I personally went through a couple years ago and put all of my scraps into these big mason jars that are like this size. And each mason jar has a different color group in it. So my standard blues are in one, and then my like turquoise, seafoam blues are in another, and my straight greens are in another. And so I had this whole rainbow of scraps to choose from, and that's a great way to go through and make one of these quilts. Now Lisa actually made this quilt, Lisa, my mom, so fun presenter. And she went through and found a bunch of different fabrics. All of this was from her scrap pile or mine. I think it was hers. I don't think she had to go through mine for this one. But the only thing then she had to buy was the background fabric and then the binding and backing fabric, which she found some really fun stuff over at Tree Lotta to emphasize the rainbow effect of this. So the blocks are paper pieced, and then you have big strips of the background fabric. And she was able to use a long arm for the first time to quilt this quilt. She was pretty nervous about it, but it was a great quilt to try out on with the black fabric and black thread, because you know that helps hide any mistakes you have. She also was doing kind of an echoey wave, and she did a vertical one, and it was a great way to practice trying to echo the waves or go opposite the waves, which that shows you in the texture quilting book as well. So with that texture quilting book, you can quilt on the long arm, you can quilt on a small machine. Both of the quilts were quilted on long arms using techniques from that texture quilting book, and then this small quilt wall hanging as well as my table runner, I did just on my little home, tabletop machine. So this was a really fun pattern, another good use of texture quilting, and a great stash buster. We had a few things that didn't arrive on time for us to get it all ready for the filming, some of our notions and one pattern. So the last thing that we have is this pattern. It's called the Gallery Tunic and Dress by Liesl & Company. And it's a fun pattern, women's sizes 0 through 20. It includes lengths for a tunic fit or a dress fit. It has different sleeve finishing options, different collar finishing options. It has a front placket and directions to do a full bust adjustment. So if you come to one of our stores during the trunk show over the next month, you'll be able to see the finished tunic and see how that turned out. Also, we have some notions. One that we have for the Love at First Sight quilt is the Add a Quarter Plus ruler. This is a great paper piecing ruler that has a really sharp edge on one side that gets tapered down to a fine point so that you can really fold those paper pieced edges over as you need to fold. And the other side has a little 1/4 inch section with the lip to achieve that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. While you're paper piecing, you definitely want to get some foundation paper. This is my favorite kind of foundation paper. I think that it's easy to tear when it's time to tear, but it's also sturdy enough that it goes easily through the printer and is easy to stitch out when you're stitching. A few other notions that we have this month that I wasn't able to show you are those Sally Tomato zipper tapes. They come with some zipper pulls on them, or ready to put on them as well. So we will have those in the stores. And we have one charm pack, a little 5-inch square pack by Maywood Studios called Happiness is Homemade. That will be in stores with a sample to show you all the different fabrics from that. So please visit one of our stores in the next month. If you have the discount card already, you can come and get your free gift for showing up during the So Fun Trunk Show. If you haven't gotten your discount card already, this is the perfect time of year to get it. Remember, if you only spend $30 a month in our stores, the discount card has paid for itself. And that doesn't include all the benefits like So Fun in person when we actually get back to being in person, as well as the So Fun gift. So if you haven't got your discount card yet, go ahead and go get that while you're in to see all the great samples from the trunk show. Remember, we have 4 locations, 3 in the Denver metro area and 1 down in Colorado Springs. And we would love to see you and help you out with any of these patterns, or, supplies that you need for your current machine, or if you're interested in a new machine. It's always a great thing to find a new technique. For this month, I used a serger, a cover stitch, a regular sewing machine, an embroidery machine, and a long arm. So really any machine that you'd like to get into, we can help you with.